What's happening, everybody? Trey here, and today reactions to the classics. We got a fun one in store, as you can see, obviously by my shirt, the wall back there. And if you know anything about the RTTC community here, man, you know we love the Beatles. And today, gonna be doing a full album reaction to the I Am Sam film soundtrack, which is composed of Beatles covers by a lot of the big artists of the day. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I want to shout out our longtime patron and friend of the channel, Carl, who is also a fellow Beatles super fan, if you will, and he talks highly of the soundtrack and of the film that it's based off of, almost like a love letter to the Beatles. I'm not familiar with the film, but it is definitely on my watch list. And man, just looking at the track listing here, there's a lot of these that I'm very curious to hear how these artists pull them off. I'm familiar with a couple of the tunes that we played on our live streams. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitch, man. Always great times there. Carl actually recently on our last live stream at the time of this recording did the Eddie Vedder track that is off of this record, man, and that was fantastic. It was a good way to whet my appetite for what we got in store. We'll just kick off with a little bit of quick facts, not a lot of research in the way of, you know, individual tracks or stuff like there is for a lot of our album reactions and reviews, but it's just going to be fun to sit back and see how these classic Beatles tunes are covered by these different artists. But I Am Sam is a soundtrack to the 2001 film I Am Sam. The soundtrack was released in January of 2002 by B2 Records, and the album contents are made up entirely of cover versions of songs by the Beatles, although it was originally intended to consist of the group's original recordings. When producers were unable to obtain the rights to the original tracks, they commissioned the artists featured on the album to record the versions instead, paying for the Beatles tunes to be used in a film. One song, let alone all of these, would have just broken the budget, I feel. So that's how we got to it. Obviously, all these songs are written by Lennon and McCartney, except our Harrison tunes, Here Comes the Sun, and If I Needed Someone. So all that to say, man, let's get after it. Let's get this Spotify bar up here. We're gonna start with Two of Us. Aptly starting that off with my Let It Be shirt here. Performed by Amy Mann and Michael Penn. I like me some Amy Mann. Just looking at the track listing here, looking forward to the, of course, the Eddie Vedder, which I already know. The Ben Folds and Ben Harper, I'm looking forward to. Black Crows, the Heather Nova. I'm curious how she pulls off a We Can Work It Out. My dude Paul Westerberg of The Replacements, one of my favorite bands, doing Nowhere Man, and Nick Cave will be finishing us off with Let It Be, and I'm sure a lot of other great stuff in between there. But as always, man, gonna have the lyrics pulled up, even though I know all of these songs very well. It's still fun to follow along with the lyrics, and just gonna take in each track, and then at the end give my favorites and overall score of this record. And I am assuming that this will get blocked due to copyright, so there will be a link down to Vimeo in the description so you can see the full video with the music included. But I think that covers all the housekeeping here. Enough talk, man. Let's get Amy Mann and Michael Penn, Two of Us, rocking. It's one of my favorite songs off of the Let It Be album. I mean, you know, at that point in the Beatles' career, towards the end there, we weren't having a lot of John and Paul dual vocal performances, man. And so, and just the lyricism itself, I think, reflects that end of a long journey of a friendship, in John and Paul's case, or, you know, just end of the road of being the Beatles. They knew the end was near. And so here, this was interesting to have a male-female duet, because you could almost read a relationship, a romantic relationship in that, and it gives a bit of a different dimension to the song. So I liked it for that. Vocal performances I thought were a little flat at points, especially Amy Mann's part about You and I Have Memories Longer Than the Road That Stretches Out Ahead. It fell a little flat on my ears. I thought when they were harmonizing together, though, that it was really strong whenever they were going in the chorus. So that was just my one qualm with the song, man. And you know, I think that doing something different with it, you already have these great melodies, of course, already written for you, so you play those straight instrumentally, and if you can switch it up a little bit, in this case doing the male female duet, I think that that works a little better because you're not really gonna pull off a better version if you just try to go straight down the middle. So nice start there, and we're gonna move now to Blackbird. Got to be one of the most covered Beatles tunes, right? And this is gonna be by Sarah McLachlan. So let's see what she can pull off here. All right, Sarah McLachlan going with Blackbird here. Man, what a gorgeous cover this was. I see, on Spotify here it shows the plays, and this by far has the most streams of any song on this record, and for good reason, I think here, man. I thought that her beautiful voice pulled off Blackbird well, and they layered the vocals, it seemed, for her a little bit as well at certain points towards the end. So I just thought that worked out so splendidly. And I mean, Blackbird's lyricism and yet again that melody is just so gorgeous that when you get somebody with a voice as good as Sarah's going and pulling that off, yet again, it's cool to hear a woman pull off these tunes that you've heard Blackbird a thousand times with Paul singing it. It's kind of neat to see how somebody else's interpretation can maybe add a little bit even more beauty or a different side of the beauty to the song here. And I thought Sarah crushed it there. I'm not too familiar with her work. I know one of her biggest things was doing the Lilith Fair tour, which really kind of bolsters up a lot of female musicians, man. So props to Sarah for doing that. And we love our Canadians here at RTTC, man. So that's gonna be, I would think, amongst my favorites at the end, but I won't call it too early, man. We still got 14 tracks left, and now we're gonna see what Rufus Wainwright's gonna do with Across the Universe. Yet again, heading back to the old Let It Be era, baby. So let's see what we got here. All right, Rufus Wainwright bringing his version of Across the Universe here. And I gotta be honest, I've heard the name Rufus Wainwright, but I couldn't, recall a song from him or anything. Yeah, yet again, one of the many artists I still have yet to dive into, man. And I gotta admit, first verse, I was a little shaky. I was like, it's one of those things. You're just so used to hearing Lennon's awesome voice pull this off. But as the song went farther and farther along, I started to vibe with it more and more, man. A bit more of a rock centric with that guitar lead, whereas of course the original has that hint of psychedelia in it. So yet again, as I talked about at that start, those little differences here and there in these tracks can honestly make quite a big difference. And I thought towards the end, man, I got a bit more accustomed to Rufus's voice, and by the final refrain, the Jagaru Deva, I was vibing with it, man. I was enjoying that one. I know Fiona Apple has covered the song, of course David Bowie covered it, and I'm I don't want to be premature, but I think I like this version better than either of those two, to be honest with you. And I know that's only off of one listen, but maybe I'm getting caught up in the moment, man. But Rufus really impressed me towards the very end there. And now we're gonna go to I'm Looking Through You, little Rubber Soul action here by the Wallflowers, which, if you don't know, features Jacob Dylan, son of course, Bob Dylan. So let's see what the Wallflowers do with this. Hitting the fade out here on one of my favorite Paul tunes of the era, man. I'm Looking Through You, man. Gotta be honest here. This is the first one that did not work for me at any level here. Jacob just seemed he seemed a bit bored, I guess you could say, just with this delivery. Yet again, fell a bit flat. There was no energy, no enthusiasm in his delivery here. And yet again, I think with the lyricism, you got to have a little bit of that fire within you whenever you deliver these types of lyrics, especially, well, tell me, why did you not treat me right? Love has a nasty habit of disappearing overnight. Like a line like that, I don't want to be sung at such a monotone, flat type of level. Which man, maybe this works for you, and if it does, that's great. For me, I think the less said about it, the better. So a miss there for the Wallflowers. But I know this next track by Pearl Jam's own Eddie Vedder, "You've Got to Hide Your Love Away," it's a great tune right here, man. So I already know we're gonna take the album back up a level here. Featuring one of yet again, I think one of the Beatles' more underrated tunes from Help right here. let's get in. I think it's so cool to see a song reinvented like this, where obviously Lennon and Eddie Vedder have quite distinct voices. Obviously, Eddie known for that, more. I guess you could call it almost that darker type of voice. Fits his, harder rock, grunge type of style. And yet he can also pull off whenever you strip the instrumentation back. Obviously, here, just with that acoustic and the cool little harmonica solo at the end, he's able to really let his voice and the distinction that it has, I think, yet again, lead a nice facet to this track that we all know and love. And you can almost feel like, oh, this man has been worn down. And he is taken away kind of from this relationship and this love, and gather around all you clowns, essentially, man. The lines, how can I even try, I can never win, hearing them, seeing them in the state I'm in. And I think Eddie, then a lot of Pearl Jam's music and lyrics, especially early on, kind of feed to that angst inside, and Eddie's the perfect voice for that, and worked out well here, man. And now I'm up to one I'm really looking forward to. Ben Harper, who I know is very acclaimed as a guitarist and can pull off a lot of different genres, gonna be tackling one of my favorite songs ever, Strawberry Fields Forever. So really looking forward to seeing how he reinvents this one. I was intrigued from the opening seconds where we had a lush orchestral section, and then his voice hit, man, which blended a bit of that reggae with then just kind of playing it a little straight with how the original was. But Harper was able to put enough of his unique fingerprints on it, if you will, to really make this stand out, because you can't try to obviously pull off a straight up version of this, because it's just going to fall short every single time. So what Harper was able to do here, I was impressed with. And there were times where the vocals were a bit layered and almost felt treated, and gave it that kind of dreamy, hazy like quality that from Strawberry Fields Forever. And yet the instrumentation was just different enough to give it a unique feel all to its own. So I enjoyed that. And then at the end, I was gearing, knowing that he's so acclaimed as a guitarist, and we had that in that right ear, as our strings were still going on as well, and letting the guitar really scream and wail out, something different than the original, man. And so for tackling a song that is this legendary, I thought Harper did a fine job with this, man. I was trepidatious going in, but old Ben here, he let down any fears that I might have had, man. So shout out to Ben Harper on that one. I was impressed. I gotta admit, I was impressed. And now buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, because it's Sheryl Crow time, and it's Mother Nature's Son. If you're a fan of the channel, you might know that I'm not a Sheryl Crow fan whatsoever. I can't stand her track "Leaving Las Vegas," one of my least favorite songs ever. Her debut album is not very good, and I just don't like her voice. So I don't have too high of expectations here, but maybe Sheryl will surprise me some. All right, Sheryl Crow, Mother Nature's Son. She's going to be getting that Jacob Dylan treatment, except worse, man. This is by far the worst track. I would be stunned if there's another cover on here that's as bad as this one is, man. Just yet again, her voice just does not work for me. The banjo was an interesting differentiation, pulled off better actually by John Denver. I would encourage y'all to check that version out, because he pulls it off in a very authentic country-esque type of way, and it works quite well. Maybe they were trying to go for that a little here, but man, it didn't work for me really at any level whatsoever, man. I'm usually a positive guy here on the channel, but man, that one I can't even fake coming up with anything nice to say about it. But hey, man, props to Sheryl for going out and giving it a college try. Now we're gonna go to Golden Slumbers by Ben Folds here. Ben Folds 5 is a pretty awesome group, man. We have a few videos covering them up on the channel. I'm expecting, obviously very piano based here. I'm looking forward to see what Ben does with this. Vocals on this one are pretty legendary by Mr. McCartney here. So let's see what we got. All right, Ben Folds making an attempt at Golden Slumbers here, man. Good choice, obviously, since it is such a piano-based track here. I thought his vocals were solid. Songs, it's so tough because one of the best, I think, vocals ever is this original track by McCartney, especially when he, hits those longer notes with Golden Slumbers. Just so legendary. Ben can't quite pull off that level of power, but I did enjoy how they put that synthesizer droning underneath that whenever he hit that point in the track. I thought that helped maybe add a little bit of oomph and power to it, where maybe Ben couldn't do that with his voice straight up. He was able to, use the synth to achieve that, and it's such a great song on Abbey Road, man. As part of that medley closing out the record, I think that Ben Folds did a pretty solid job, all in all. And now we're gonna go to the one song that isn't on Spotify. I you know how copyright is, but it's gonna be "I'm Only Sleeping," performed by the Vines here. Gonna be pulling it off YouTube. So let's see what we got. All right, the Vines killing it, man, with "I'm Only Sleeping." That was a very pleasant surprise right here, man. And just the energy that maybe was lacking in a couple of these other covers was apparent here. A very rocking tune right here. And I just gotta shout out Craig Nichols. I don't know much about the Vines. They're from Australia, formed in the mid-90s in Sydney, and have said that they are about a musical hybrid of 60s garage rock and 90s alternative. And I think those are two great descriptors of kind of the sound that we had here. And at the end, I thought it was really tight how they just looped the "stay in bed," switched that up from the original right there, and really let the guitar loose. Yet again, a more kind of true, alt rock type of version, as opposed to the psychedelic infused original off of Revolver. That yet again, that was one that I was a bit trepidatious, just since it is one of my favorite tracks off of Revolver and one of my favorite Lennon compositions. But the Vines really impressed me and absolutely killed that, man. So shout out again to Craig Nichols, who is a vocalist and guitarist there. And now we're gonna move on, ladies and gentlemen, to Stereophonics pulling off "Don't Let Me Down." Yet again, gonna go back to that Let It Be era. All right, Stereophonics, with yet again a group I've heard of but don't know their work. But man, this definitely piqued my interest. Again, crushing it right here. We got back-to-back absolute bangers, in my opinion. Looking like that Kelly Jones is on lead vocals and lead guitar here. We were in Australia, had a band from Australia last tune. Now we got a band from Wales right here, and he had such a warm, mature voice that I think it was able to have that believability on the lyricism of "Don't Let Me Down," which is a pretty mature song at points whenever you honestly dive into the lyrics. That part where he goes, "It's a love that lasts forever. It's a love that has no past. Don't let me down." They played it pretty much, by the numbers to the original version, and yet it worked well with how good Kelly's voice is, how distinct it was, and were able to still make it their own in a way, even though they were a bit closer to the original than a lot of the other covers have been up to this point. I appreciated that, man, and gotta check more of them out. Let me know if you're a Stereophonics fan where I should look to begin. Always cool to discover. Cool to discover new groups, even if they're old, so to speak. So next we're gonna go to the Black Crowes, pulling off "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds." Knowing the Black Crow songs that I do that are a little bit more of a rocking, harder edge, I'm gonna be curious how they're gonna pull off this psychedelic masterpiece right here. So let's see what they got. Man, we had two bangers in a row, but this was again a bit of a mismatch that didn't quite work for me. It felt like the Black Crowes just weren't comfortable pulling off the psychedelic sound, which songs I know of them, obviously, they're not psychedelic at all. So, it's kind of tough to ask a band to pull that off, especially on such short notice, I know, too. I think that's something that's important to point out. where they originally, the creators of the film thought they were going to get the actual, original recordings, and then to ask these artists to do that on what I would assume to be a pretty tight deadline had to have been tough, man. So again, even on these that I don't like this song, I still appreciate the effort, and anybody who's a fan of the Beatles, and y'all are a-okay in my book, man. But yeah, this one it just felt a bit off, almost like a bit like we're uncomfortable trying to pull this off. The mixing there wasn't really working for me either. I will admit, towards the end, maybe I was just finally kind of vibing with it, where the refrain "Lucy in the sky with diamonds," that would be the highlight if I had to choose one. And I did respect the backwards guitar portions at the start, them trying to do some psychedelic stuff there, even if it fell short for me. But next up, we're gonna go to the Chocolate Genius Incorporated with the track Julia, which is an interesting tune to cover, just since it is so personal to John. If you don't know, it's an ode to his mother who had passed away. It appears on the White album, and I'm not familiar with Old Chocolate Genius, but I looked. It's a music collective started by Mark Anthony Thompson, a Panamanian singer-songwriter based in New York City. And he conceived Chocolate Genius as an alter ego, which then became a music project. So longest tune on this record here at 4.5 minutes. So let's see how he pulls off Julia. As always, noting a little bit in the reaction, this is one of the ones that really was distinct and unique. Definitely not by the numbers, and added 1.5 minutes in runtime here on this tune, and it kind of happened towards the end, kind of bringing out, letting that instrumentation really flow. Obviously had a bit of a rocking edge, whereas the original is just an acoustic ballad essentially here. And this is one where some of the people on this soundtrack so far, like Jacob Dylan, I'm not trying to pick on him, but the passion that Chocolate Genius showed here, man, I think was very well done on this tune in particular. He had a very raw sounding voice, which goes well with the lyrics and the story, and just that longing, man. Touch me so I sing a song of love, Julia. Like, he was really getting into it, getting inspired, and I appreciated that, and I'm one that appreciates that emotion and that passion a little bit more than if you're just like a technically great singer or whatever the case might be. And I think that rawness was felt in this tune, man. So shout out to Chocolate Genius on that. And now we're gonna get to another one of my favorite Beatles tunes, "We Can Work It Out" by Heather Nova. I've actually reacted to a Heather Nova track before on the channel, Walk This World, so let's see what she does with this. All right, Heather Nova bringing "We Can Work It Out." Again, playing it pretty much by the numbers here. Going with that whispery vocal delivery didn't quite fully work for me, this cover, but I respect the ambition. This is an absolute monster to try to tackle right here, and she was doing both sections here, so she didn't even have like Paul, obviously had Lennon to come and help him out in that middle 8 section. But man, I respect the fact that she tackled this, even if it didn't work for me. I do think, yet again, that adds a bit of a different perspective, though, since it was only her on the track, just and again, coming from that women's perspective about hey man, maybe we can work this situation out between us here. And even though that vocal wasn't for me, I could see how it could maybe be for somebody else. But now we're gonna move on to "Help," featuring a guy I haven't thought of in ages, Howie Day. If you were in the mid-2000s, you couldn't escape the song "Collide." That melody is just already in my head. Somehow find you and I collide. Da, 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 da. It was played in coffee shops, I feel, all across the world. So let's see how he does "Help" here. All right, "Help" by Howie Day. Yet another one, just like Julia, where the original song length was lengthened out here by about a minute or so. And my highlight was those guitar effects that were used, and just sound effects in general at the end. I don't know what we had going on there, but hey, man, it was something different. Howie's vocal delivery was a bit hit or miss for me, but not as bad as some of these other tunes that I did didn't like as much. I did enjoy, yet again, feeling this arrangement in a totally different way, whereas the original Help is coming to you in a fury. This one was, yet again, taking its time, going with what Howie is kind of known for, that slower, drawn-out delivery, and yet still bringing the rain, so to speak, and the fire with the electric guitar work. So, though maybe not a favorite on here, I don't think it's a bottom of the barrel either, and this is kind of what you want on a release like this. Show me something that is different, that I couldn't hear from any just random person on YouTube covering this song, or so to speak. So I think it had that going for it. And now we're gonna go to Paul Westerberg of the Replacements fame with Nowhere Man. I've heard this track a couple times, but it's been ages. Love me some Replacements, man. Really, really great band, in my top 10 favorite bands ever. So let's see what Paul does with this. I like that right there, man. That ending little horn section was a nice touch here as Paul Westerberg pulls off Nowhere Man. I could see how this could not be for everybody, with Paul's a bit more seasoned voice here. Obviously the Replacements heyday was in that 80s period, so recorded a couple decades after. Doesn't quite have the voice he did back in the day on some of my favorite Replacements acoustic tracks, or there's acoustic version of Can't Hardly Wait, which is great, and then a proper song of Here Comes a Regular, which ends out Tim, and just fantastic. And this, I think that acoustic, obviously different from the original, slower paced here, and was a bit more of a contemplative track, where you could really cue into the lyricism there, and just enjoy the beauty of the lyrics that Lennon penned. Some of my favorite Lennon lyrics in the whole Beatles catalog right there. So relatable and timeless through the ages. And Paul just adds kind of that bit of angst, and of somebody searching for it, the meaning, and searching for happiness in a sense, and just a place in the world. So I think having Paul Westerberg be that type of voice was a well done decision, man. I enjoyed it, and we're only got 2 songs left. We got Granddaddy, who I'm not familiar with at all, gonna be pulling off Revolution, one of the hit singles from the latter part of the Beatles' career. So let's see what we got. Obviously, totally different arrangement. Brought that, I never even heard of Granddaddy. I was looking here. They are an American indie rock band formed from Modesto, California in '92. And, bringing that type of indie, really kind of a lo-fi type of sound to a track like Revolution, which is so notable. I think one of the highlights of the single version of Revolution is just that blistering guitar lead that comes to you just from those opening seconds. Whereas this stripped all that away, and with a bit of a more indie, spacier type of production right here. And I'm kind of used to music like this, so yet again, it wasn't really turned off by it, even if it might not end up amongst my favorites. I can see how this would definitely not work for many people, man, but I actually kind of dug it the longer it went going on. They knew yet again that there's no way we can just play this straight by the number, so let's add our unique touch, our unique sound to this, and see what happens, man. And I don't think the results was half bad. And now we're gonna finish with a monster right here. Let It Be by the great Nick Cave. A guy who's known to be a bit dark at times, man, and has definitely got a unique singing voice. So I'm really curious to see what he does with Let It Be. And then at the end, I will give my favorite tracks and overall score to the record. Bravo to Mr. Nick Cave for ending off this record on a high note right here with Let It Be. I just think, yet again, he's got such a unique voice, and just rock music in general, man, that he brought that maturity, almost that you hear Nick Cave, you're thinking dread, you're thinking a bit of dreariness is around the corner type of deal, and he even has that look that kind of complements that. But on this, man, I thought yet again, it came from that more mature perspective as we go back and just simply say, hey, let it be. As whenever Nick Cave tells me to let it be, man, I'm going to do so. And again, the arrangement, the organ was subtle. The backing harmonies were well done, just like on the original, of course. And man, don't have too much more to add. It felt still like a Nick Cave tune, which I can't say for a lot of these songs on here. A lot of these songs sounded like obviously people trying to cover the Beatles, of course, but this felt authentic Nick Cave, man. So I like that. And now, man, we're gonna go to my favorite tracks. I'm just going to go in order of when they appeared. I got to give that shout out to Sarah McLachlan on Blackbird. I think You've Got to Hide Your Love Away by Eddie Vedder was really strong. Ben Harper really impressed me with Strawberry Fields Forever, pulling off such a legendary tune like that. So intricately arranged, so much going on musically in that tune. And, Ben was able to add, I think, a positive to that track. I'm also going to go with honestly, man, I thought that Don't Let Me Down by Stereophonics was really, really tight as well. And then Let It Be by Nick Cave with an honorable mention to Julia. And that will take me now to overall score. It is always weird putting an overall score to a soundtrack just because, there's there's 17 different artists that we had on this thing. So obviously there's not a lot of continuity here rather than or other than just being Beatles tunes. It seemed about half of these worked for me and the other half didn't, or somewhere around there. So I'm just gonna be at a 6.25 for me on this record, man. There were some songs that I absolutely really, really enjoyed. They brought some fresh life, some fresh voices to these Beatles classics we all know and love, and then some of them just didn't work for me on any level. So whenever you kind of put that together, that's what you kind of expect on a soundtrack, So some of with these artists that are in so many different types of styles and sounds, man. But all in all, I'm really glad we have this soundtrack, and I want to thank Carl again for suggesting this and opening up the discussion, man. I'm curious, what are your favorite tunes off of this, and what are some of your favorite Beatles covers in general? So tough to cover the best band to ever do it, man. But I think we found some nice gems in this selection right here. So thanks again to Carl, and this is always fun to talk the Beatles, man, and see what other artist interpretations are for them as well. And until next time, y'all, I guess that'll do it from us today. If you're looking for more Beatles content on the channel, trust me, we got you covered here at RTTC. You can check out our Beatles playlist where we have a track-by-track review of every single record, as well as rankings for all the lads, ranking the top 100 songs, the studio records, songs on each album, man. We got you covered for a while here. But anyways, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Happy listening, and I will see you.